every day you wait is just another day that you don't have those lottery funds to put in your own bank account and to start compounding.
So something else that holds people back, and it's all related to that waiting for the perfect time, is feeling uncertain. So can you talk a little bit about uncertainty, and why do you think that people being uncertain of the future and feeling like it's risky, can you talk a little bit about risk and why they feel it's risky to wait?
Yeah, of course. I mean, something I've learned over the years as a business owner is that uncertainty is something that sooner or later you have to come to terms with as a business owner. You can continue to try to protect yourself from it as best you can, but the only constant thing, as they say in business over time, is change. That's the only constant. Everything else changes. So you might as well embrace the change and the uncertainty. You know, I'm flying my family to Mexico for 6 weeks in 2 days, the day after tomorrow. And we're going to spend some time out there just because we can, you know, because it's the kind of thing that I would have sat in my old job, staring out of the grey, rainy office window and dreamt about that. I would have daydreamed about one day being able to do that, take the whole of, you know, the start of the year off, like all of January, half of February, take my family to somewhere like Mexico. So now I've reached that point, I make a point of fulfilling those daydreams and actually taking the trips. But the last time that we were in Mexico, it was actually just my wife and I. So it was before our 2 children were here. And we were out there for about the same amount of time. We try and do this like semigration thing where you go out to different parts of the world, sunny climates for the darker, grayer months in the UK. And there was this thing that kept popping up on the news at home. And it was like, oh, this strange virus was just emerging and there was something happening on the news. And it was 2020, very early. And, you know, we all know what happened shortly after that, how the world changed. Now, did any of us know with certainty that was going to go down how it did? No way. You know, certain people may have predicted things like the pandemic happening, but no one knew quite how it was going to go down that way and the effect that it would have on businesses shutting down or the economy taking a huge dive or, you know, even the wider stuff like people's mental health and physical health. And what I think I was most shocked by was the amount of people that just got let go from their jobs during that initial wave because maybe they didn't qualify for furlough, you know, and so they just got let go. It was like last in, first out kind of thing. But after taking my future in my own hands a few years earlier and starting a remote e-commerce business that I was able to go out to Mexico and run from a laptop, well, getting back and being in a lockdown, it meant that I had the protection from the effects of that uncertainty that I couldn't have foreseen. I'm not saying I predicted that specific turn of events. I didn't know it was going to be a pandemic, but I knew there'd be something, whether it was, you know, it just in my life, like I got let go from my job, or if it was a global event like the pandemic, I just needed to know that my family's income was secure and that I'd protected myself against it. And that won't be the last uncertain event that shakes the world, unfortunately. You know what the news is like. You tune in and every day there's a new crisis or disaster or catastrophe. It's kind of like this revolving door of fear. But the question is, will you be ready to deal with it? You know, if you start your business now and you're building resilience into your business model, if you start a business that you can run from anywhere, like a remote e-commerce business, when the next crisis occurs, and it does happen, because it will at some point, you're going to be ahead of the game. You know, I believe you make your own stability. I don't think that some people just end up with it. I believe you build those foundations yourself. And so, yeah, many people are under the illusion that a 9-to-5 corporate job for their whole career is stable and less risky. But then we hear about how many people who just get made redundant without any control, and they're just left with no transferable skills that they can use in any other profession. And suddenly they have no choice but to pivot or take a huge pay cut. So when you start your own business and learn incredibly valuable skills, as you just mentioned, you could apply those skills in various different professions. It gives you more control, both over your finances, but also over your future options as well, which is so important.
And I was guilty, like so many, of thinking that a 9-to-5 job is definitely the least risky option. Go into a big company like a corporate role and you'll be stable. But I saw so many people around me losing their jobs, and you realize that actually whatever path you choose is risky. There's always going to be risk involved with whichever path you decide to go down. So that gave me the realization that I should just go after what I want anyway. If there's going to be a risk with anything involved, then I should go after the real life that I dreamt for and dreamt about. And that really was hammered home when I read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, and you do the fear setting exercise, and you realize that actually the risk that you want to take to start a business isn't that risky at all. That you can deal with the downside, and the potential upside is huge. So I recommend that book, of course, to anyone that hasn't already come across that. But that helps to mitigate that fear of uncertainty and to stop wasting time, because you're wasting money while you wait. So we're trying to quantify here the wasting time aspect and how much it's costing us. So we'll dig into that. But what do you think the daily sort of financial impact is for people that aren't starting and going after a dream business?
Yeah, well, it's difficult to quantify, but imagine it like this. Imagine that so every day that you delay in starting your business, it's like you have a winning lottery ticket that you know is a winner, and you're just leaving it in a drawer on your desk. You're never cashing it in. You're never doing anything about it. That opportunity cost is hands down the most overlooked cost. Now, that sounds like an extreme example, but it kind of is like that. Now, I'm not saying that starting a business is like winning the lottery immediately. If you're willing to roll the punches and overcome the obstacles that come your way and, ride the entrepreneurial roller coaster with enough perseverance and grit and determination and the right strategy. So it kind of is like an eventual lottery win. Every day you wait is just another day that you don't have those lottery funds to put in your own bank account and to start compounding. So you've got to realize every day of inaction is just costing you, both in terms of your time freedom, because all of the time that you're not cashing in that, you are locked doing what you're currently doing. So you have to realize that every day of inaction is really costing you. It's like having that winning lottery ticket there, and it's costing you both in time freedom, which is that irreplaceable currency that we said you can never get back, because every single time that day ticks on another, another date on the calendar, or another hour on the clock, you can't get that time back. But it's also costing you, leaving it there, actual currency, because the money you could be earning from your business as well. And then, what you do with that money is what will change your life. So if you're investing that money and allowing it to compound over time, that's all compound interest and compound gains that you're never going to get, because the capital is sitting in other people's bank accounts at the moment. They're waiting to spend that money. They're going to buy the products anyway from, a different e-commerce retailer. So every day that you don't create your own company, you're basically just handing that money to someone else. So to give you an idea of the opportunity that's at your fingertips right now, small businesses in the UK contribute £2 trillion annually to the economy. So that's every single year. Small businesses contribute £2 trillion. It's a huge amount of money. And when you get in a taxi and they start the meter, and maybe like I've had it where I'm waiting for a friend or something and they're still in the restaurant and you're sitting there waiting and the meter's ticking on and you start to see the meter climbing and climbing, or you're sitting in traffic and you're just watching it go up, but you're not going anywhere. It's like that. The longer you wait, the more it costs you.
Wow, that is really eye-opening. Some of those stats you've shared with us there, I couldn't believe, to be honest, when you say about how much money there is out there. It's easy to fall into a mindset when you look at the news that's out there that things are failing and things are getting more difficult. And obviously the world isn't perfect, but when you realize that there's opportunities there and you look on a more positive mindset, then you can realize how you can capitalize on that as well, because that opportunity is there for you if you're thinking about getting started with a business. But I'm glad you mentioned there the two currencies that are being lost when you don't go after your dreams, the time one and the money one. So I'll dig into that a little bit more. Firstly, the time one is, I think, the one that people should focus on. Because if you wait a year to not go after your dreams, that's a year that you'll never get back. But on the financial side, for the money one that's more easy to quantify, I love this thing that Alex Hormozy says. He says, if you don't know how to make 100 grand a month, for example, and you're making maybe 5 grand a month instead, then it's costing you £95,000 every month to not know how to make £100,000 that month. And if you shift the frame, I love that framework for looking at things, and you realize how much it's actually costing you to not make that money and apply that to however your figures are at the moment, you realize that there's a lot of money being left on the table every single month by not knowing. It's like an ignorance cost. It's also opportunity cost that we've talked about a lot today as well. But once you put that into perspective, I hope that really hammers home. It definitely did for me, that the ignorance cost is costing you a lot more than any other expense in your life.